Okie dokie, everybody. Welcome back. You're here at the Fox Den with Pater Voss, the Papa Fox, and we are going to continue playing Pillars of Eternity. When we last left, about the map. When we last left off, we had just broken into Heritage Hill. We had swept our way through the eastern portion of it, and we had dealt with a spectral captain of the guard who didn't even realize she was dead. So we dispatched her and her flunkies. Now we are cutting our way west, I believe. All the way across Heritage Hill. We're not exploring this area just yet. I want to see what we can see up here first. So, let's go ahead and be about it.
Sure.
I forgot what was in here. Yes, camping supplies. Okay.
Yeah?
How are y'all doing? I am doing absolutely wonderfully. Got my son in bed, so everything is going nicely. Wife's working on her schoolwork and everything. I am so proud of her. She's working so hard on her stuff, and once it gets over with, then you know, things will be a bit more smooth sailing for our family. But it's tough. I mean, both of us are working full-time jobs. She's also doing grad school, and we're both parents. And oh man, it can get a little overwhelming sometimes. And ideally, it would be nice if I could. That's one of the reasons I'm planning on putting in some effort onto developing this channel a little bit more, because it would be nice if this turned into a little bit of something. And I've said this many times before. One of the reasons why I even began this channel to begin with is it gives me a nice, clear cut time that I can, play a few games every so often, and I actually get to talk about it too, which I like. I like talking about games. I like talking to you guys about games. Or I like talking to you all about stuff like this. It's fun. I'm trying to get better at it, of course. Any feedback y'all might have would absolutely be wonderful. Broken chairs, upended tables, and shattered vases block the stairs. Splintered planks shift precariously. Well, we're not going that way. So let's see what we have in here. I need to do the snaky. Otherwise we get the trappy. The happy trap. Okay, we got some beer. I don't know if I'd want to drink that, though, but okay. And some cocoa. For some hot cocoa. Cocoa. Oh, boy. Ghouls and darghouls. Just come out here. There we go. We can just deal with you. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love doors in this game. You can just have one guy with a giant shield just sit up there and take them out. It's hilarious. It's one of those mechanics that you're meant to use to your advantage. So I use it every chance I get. You're supposed to be able to use your fighters and being able to engage multiple opponents to protect your casters and like shield walls. That's what this is meant to do, which is nice. It's great to, that's one of the things that people always want the games to be perfectly balanced or challenging and stuff. Well, part of the whole thing is figuring out what really works for your playstyle and just, working. If the enemies were absolutely 100% confident and never made mistakes, then it would be a very good story. It would actually be a very short story. There you go. I mean, obviously I'm not doing a very eloquent way of handling that topic, and obviously there are other people who've done it better than I. So I do advise you guys to take, or I would advise you all to take anything that I say with a grain of salt, at least until I have a proper video on all of that. I don't even know if I'm going to get into that kind of thing. Right now I'm just trying to get out the videos and develop the channel slowly. I don't want to rush too much. Okay, what do we got here? Potion of the Merciless Gaze. 15% of hits converted to crits. That's good. Okay. The Doughty Burglar. A Deerwooden Farce, Part 1. Okay, Lord Valtus's Will. A last will and testament has been carefully drawn up on a stained piece of sackcloth. It lists Lord Valtus' various titles and holdings, ending with the following. Should no member of my family survive, it is my wish that my wealth and property be dispensed to the Crucible Knights, that my wife and children and me be buried with my forebears in the Valtus family tomb, and that the right hand of the Duke of Hadrit, at the right hand of the Duke of Hadrit, signed, Valero Valtus, 5th Lord of the House of Valtus. Well, we're taking that. It is probably going to be useful at some point in the future. Let's go
Light,
back.
flame, and sound. We'll keep to ourselves.
What do we got going on here? Seda, let us in. It's safe now. Come out. Open the door, Seda. The female Dargle sniffs the air and whirls around, hissing, Survivor! Okay, well, charge! Oh boy. Oh, there we go. You guys do rush on in. Go ahead and take this person out. Go. Let's see. To have you use your legendary, or not legendary, but that thing. Let's go ahead and mark it. Cool. Wonderful. Swift strikes on Peter. We are actually going to see if we can stun them all. There we go. Wonderful. Okay. Right, that is exactly what I wanted to have happen. Now we are going to daze some of them with an arcane assault. And once more right over here to get these folks. Plan. Okay. Wow, that was quite nice. Moment, there we go. Knocked out. Let's go ahead and see what we can get.
Sure.
I'm not gonna go over there just yet. Is there anything over here? No. Let's go ahead and sneak and see if there's anything in here before we go into the locked door. Now, are there any traps? No, but there is a locked chest that we can get loot from. A rapier and some money. And what's in here? Valtus Manor Key. A Manor Key. Oh, I cracked myself up. It's a Manor Key. Get it? Because there's a... Never mind. Okay, let's go ahead and unlock this. What do we got in here? Okay, any traps? No, it doesn't look like. Valtus groundskeeper letter. This is a note addressed to the household staff. Please see to it that the family mausoleum is swept and the marble polished. The key is hanging, as always, in the kitchen by the oven. Ooh, okay. We shall definitely have that on hand. Black and white cat. No, it's a kitty cat. Oh, that looks like my cat. Okay. There we go. What do we got here? One light shines from the behind the map. There's a ragged hole going to the outside. Someone dug through. Huh. Okay. Well. Let's see here. This is not the kitchen. This is the kitchen. Seems to be the hook mentioned, but the mausoleum key is missing. Aha, Sherlock, a clue. Go to the... Oh, it's asking us to actually go back to the mausoleum. Let's go ahead and do that and see if we actually I might have missed it. My brain is not actually functioning on all cylinders right now, so I probably need some more caffeine, but let's go ahead and see if we can open it up. It's only a short trek and then we can be on our merry. Oh, we can. Okay.
I'm on the trail.
Let's go ahead and be sneaky about this. Because why not? There might be some traps. Check for traps. If you don't check for traps, you can face check for traps. Ah, Seda. Let's see here. Some money. Is there any trappies?
You should see this.
Let's go ahead and undo. Oh, trap warning. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk with Seda. The little girl cowers in the back of the tomb. Her face is streaked with dirt, and even in the shadows you can tell she's far too thin. She watches you, holding her breath. It's all right. You're safe. She inches into the candlelight. Her clothes are a little more than filthy rags now, but ripped and stained fabric looks like embroidered silk. You have to be quiet. No noise. Noise brings the hungry people. Has she been here all along, hiding from those creatures? My name's Seda. Are you hiding from them too? She watches the door of the vault, her eyes wide and careful. Where's your family? At the house. Mother told me to hide and not let anyone in. Then I heard a lot of noise, fighting and yelling, and her eyes glaze over. And then Mother told me to open the door again. But she didn't sound right. Tell me what happened to you. Her eyes take on a distant look. Her legs start to tremble. Be strong. Think back to how this started. She takes a deep breath and stares at the stone floor. There was a big noise and light in the sky. Everyone thought it was a storm, but then people started waking up. After they died, She twists her shredded sleeve into knots. Mother and Father and Emilio boarded up the door, but the hungry people found our house. Her fidgeting becomes more agitated. They fought, but the hungry people always get up again. They broke through the door and Mother told me to hide. And then I came here to hide. But the door got stuck and I didn't know when it would be safe outside. Who are the hungry people? She whispers and her eyes go round with terror. The ones outside. They don't sleep or die, but they eat. Seda, I came across some Dargwolves in a house. The girl's eyes widen. You saw Mother and Father and Emilio? How did they get away? How did you get away? We're not going to lie. Let's not worry about that right now. We should focus on getting out of here. She picks at a thumbnail, watching you. She nods slowly. You need to get out of here. Is it safe? Are the hungry people out there? It's still dangerous, but the path to the main gate should be clear. Run for it. I won't let anything catch me, I promise. I can't imagine being in that kind of situation. Okay.
Hey there.
If my kid, holy cow. Okay, so we are let's move from that heaviness and let's go ahead and see if we can trigger this trap. Yes, we're going to disarm the trap.
It's gonna leave a scar.
Yep. It was worth it. We got the iridescent scarab figurine. Summon an Audra beetle. Okay, well, maybe not quite worth it, but, there you go. We are actually going to rest here. You awake to see Durrance, his staff held in both of his hands before him. A flame flickers at its top end, casting long shadows across his face as he stares in contemplation. Still, for all the light of the fire, your eyes can't focus on him. Perhaps it's awakening from sleep or a trick of the light, but he seems indistinct, blurred around the edges. Everything except for the staff. The staff. He seems to be studying its engravings. As you watch, the engravings glow thinly red, like through the cracks of heat-suffused wood. The lines stream like molten metal, burning along the edges of his staff, and then branch out in an intricate series of fiery veins, bunching thickly where his hands clutch the wood, pulsing as if a heartbeat. As you watch, the veins spiral into a dozen separate circles, the circles that spire again until they are arranged in a circle of their very own. They pulse, wait, and all is strangely silent, and then suddenly there's a great light from the fire, a rushing of air, a great flash, and you awaken again to see Durrance in the same place, still holding his staff, but he is solid, real. He doesn't seem to have noticed you or reacted to what occurred. Okay, well, that's good to know. Let's see how much time we have left on the old ticker. Yes, so we're definitely going to talk with him. Let's go ahead and do that. Something ail you? I had questions I want to ask you.
If doubts and curiosity plague you, you're skidding your knuckles on the wrong door.
I saw something strange. You were sitting by the fire and I saw a great light come from your staff.
Tell me what you saw.
Durrance is silent, staring at you, locking gazes. It's like a flash. It was a flash like an explosion, a rushing of air, incredibly bright.
It is the light of the Godhammer you saw.
Durrance takes in each word. He is strangely silent for a moment, and when he speaks, his voice is low. The Godhammer? What about it?
It was a weapon of Deerwood's people, a symbol of their independence. It saved the Deerwood.
What do you know about it?
It brought the Saints' War to an end, knocked a god from his perch. There are few that would deny Eothas overstepped. The Godhammer reminded Eothas of it.
Durrance's voice remains low, steady, as if repeating something he's said many times before, either out loud or to himself. Durrance's face becomes stone.
You saw its light because I helped shape it, give it life, and release it into the world. Once seen, its glory is almost too bright to be believed, and too bright to be forgotten.
You helped build the Godhammer?
There were 12 of us. We fashioned the weapon, drafted plans for it, prayed for guidance at Ashfall, and it came to me there. Each of us were given a staff made from the forest of black trees around us, glowing with embers and fire far greater than this branch you see now. It felt as if the staff was Margaren's own finger, guiding my hand, guiding the other 11, the shadows of the 12 who had come to stand on the bridge to stop Eothas.
Shadows of the 12?
Even in that stand, there was a ritual to it. For the 12 that stood on the bridge, there were a dozen shadows cast, a dozen faithful of Margaren, her fiercest supporters and shapers of the Godhammer.
Durrance rests the staff in front of him, and the flame atop it curls for a moment, the light flaring slightly. It splits into a ring of flames, one after another, until a dozen is met.
As 12 held Eothas fast, we 12 unleashed our prayers and let the Godhammer fall.
Then it blossoms brightly once and resumes its candle intensity. In the aftermath, the shadows seem sharper in the vicinity, as if they have edges, and you blink to clear your vision. Durrance is still staring at the tiny candle-like flame intently.
Shadows cast by the fire of the Godhammer, perhaps. We shared their fate as well in time. Now the spine of the Deerwood is marked by the Godhammer, marked by Margaret.
The flame suddenly winks out, smokeless. Durrance frowns and moves his gaze from his staff. What do you mean, shared their fates?
Not all deaths come with stilled breath and stilled heart, or other stilled passions beneath the waste. Some deaths come from silence.
Durrance grunts, adjusts the cord of his robe.
The connection we once shared with Margaren. After the light of the Godhammer, it was not the same. It was as if we'd lost our senses, and sense of purpose as well. Instead of victory, being welcomed, there was silence, within and without. Not many can claim to have killed a god. It is less a heroic tale than you would think. And such a death, it changed our faith. All faiths, I expect. Doubt followed, and the world changed. I do not believe Margaret was pleased by what we had done.
Durrance returns his gaze to the dead tip of the staff. Why is that?
The world is broken. The wheel stilled. There is sickness in the world's heart. Perhaps the price of crossing a god.
Durrance scratches at his pox scar, then stops, withdraws his hand, studying it, frowning. Well, we still don't know what's causing it. We know it has something to do with all of those mysterious figures we saw when we first started the game.
Crossing two gods. Even as Margaret shaped our hands, perhaps we carried her will farther than was allowed. Just as Widewind did. Saint Widewind. Mortal arrogance to match mortal arrogance. Yet if the world had changed, then I sought to change with it. If I had forgotten some of Margaret's teachings, I would find them again. I would make her see me again.
What did you do?
I remembered Margaret's teachings. How reminders on the flesh were more important than the death of a vessel. And I wondered if killing Aethys, if that had simply set him free. Had it allowed him to escape his punishment and be taken on the wheel? Like a mortal?
Durrance's voice takes an odd upturn. For once, it feels like he's genuinely asking a question. He shakes his head.
As I stepped from the now blessed Godhammer Bridge, I thought of Ashfall. I thought of the War of Black Trees. Wondered if I needed to be burned to find myself again. That is Margaret at her heart. At least that is my hope. These are the doubts that befall me.
What happened when you returned to Ashfall?
The road to Ashfall is long. Gives one time to think. If you think long enough, you do not go home. I left without telling anyone, with only the robes I wore at Halgot, my staff, and my name, which is long buried.
Huh. That's not his real name.
Of my fellow 11 craftsmen, disciples, I know not what happened to them, if they suffered the same doubt as I did. But it was underserved. It was wrong. We had done all that, or had asked. Grabbed victory from defeat and...
This is interesting. We have the same thing said two different ways. It's really important how you phrase your questions and how you say them sometimes. Do you feel as if you betrayed your god? You feel as if your god has betrayed you.
There is something about being used and cast aside. Perhaps Widewen himself felt it. There at the end, when the hammer struck. To be the proof that your god is hollow as the vessel it inhabits.
Durrance's eyes narrow as if focusing on some inner thought.
I tried to find purpose, and avoided all contact with other Magranic priests. Did not seek the walls of Ashfall, and sought to make amends to my god through actions. I joined with the Purges for a time, and not long after came the first signs of the Hollowborn. So many crimes, trespasses, violations. The Salvation. Animancers were another sickness born of the Saints' War. A relapse of innovation, of desperation to heal what we had caused. All seemed worse than before the bridge, not better. And as years passed, the world became even worse still for the victory.
Maybe the purges weren't what Macron wanted either. Now I see. You committed atrocities and your god. Maybe the purges weren't what Magrin wanted either. Sweat collects on the sooty creases of his forehead and runs down his ruddy cheeks. It drips from the tip of his nose. His mouth moves, but his utterances make no sound. He is, for once, at a loss. Feeling your gaze, he quickly composes himself, wiping his forehead with the back of a dirty hand.
Huh? Worship the whims of some fickle bitch, and you'll never be more than dirt beneath her feet. Worship what she worships, on the other hand. Take her fire for your own, and her esteem comes on its own. Of course, by that time you no longer need it. Trial and transformation, sure as Durance taught.
He's trying to bolster himself. I don't know if he necessarily believes what he's preaching. He's tough to figure out. As Matthew Mercer would say, he's kind of hard to read. Let's see. Okay, continue. Durance glares at you, and staring into his eyes gives you the feeling of peering over the edge of a great cliff.
You think to put the coals to my feet, but what's burned once will never burn again. These talks are your trial, Watcher. You cannot deflect the truth to one who has already been purified by it.
I don't think you've been purified by it yet. Tell me what happened on the bridge. We chose the bridge because we could control it. Durance's hands tighten at the top of the staff, as if holding it by the neck. It was a place where we could choke Aethys in his own footsteps, where we knew his feet would fall. A narrow neck of stone. But it was more than that. It was the spine of the deerwood, symbolic of its backbone. Such symbols are important in the construction of a weapon. Durance studies his staff, his eyes traveling along the etchings. Any weapon. Durance's face hardens. His eyes burn, his eyebrows narrowing. I suspect Aethys knew that as well, and so did his vessel, in its arrogance. His hand tightens on the staff. He intended to walk upon the bridge as if walking on the backs of the deerwood. And we intended to burn him with the light of our faith, and his. 12 on the bridge, 12 in the shadow, and we gave ourselves to it. Gave yourselves to it?
We put much of ourselves into the Godhammer. Such a device is not simply a machine. There are elements of the spirit in it. Even Widewind's spirit.
Elements of the spirit?
Each of the 12 who brought the Godhammer forth would have done anything to save the Deerwood, save its people. It is why we were chosen. Each of us hated this pretender. That rage, that spirit, that rebellion went into our work, and went into studying him as well.
Widewind? Why?
We all studied Widewind. He was our enemy, and he had provided the flesh the god wore as a cloak. That flesh made him vulnerable. I knew what fields his hands had tilled, his family, what he had harvested, where he had been born. We sought to know him, what had led him to fight us.
Why was that important?
You don't kill the god. You kill the man it inhabits. And you leave that man a ruin. Burn him to ash. The weapon was meant to not only burn his flesh, but it would burn his soul. And it did. At the cost of our own. And at the cost of our goddess's favor. That whore be damned.
Sounds as if you fell victim to your own weapon.
Perhaps your eyes were blinded by the truth of the Godhammer, Watcher. I feel half a man at times, but even that is twice that of most others. If you fear for my spirit, your fears are baseless. The Godhammer, seeing its light, only fueled my anger and made me stronger, made me re-examine the teachings of Magrin. Put them in a new light.
It looked as if there was only a part of you, as if your spirit had been sheared in half.
I do not need you to cast any more questions on me, Watcher. Nor did I ask you to look upon me without my leave. Get gone, and leave me be.
Huh. Okie dokie. Well, we're going to call that the end of the episode. If you've enjoyed, go ahead and hit that like button or give me a subscription if you enjoyed my other work, or some feedback if you prefer. Of course, it's always great to see you all here at the Fox Inn. I hope you come back next time and pull up a chair for some more Pillars of Eternity. Alrighty. You take care now. Bye.